Okay, looks like we're
Yep, we're
good.
live in a
We're
second.
live. Yep.
A little behind schedule, but we'll be starting soon.
Namanda, 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 Namanda. Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Shotsuki service, our Shotsuki monthly memorial and adult Dharma service for February. Let's see. Today, let's chant Juseige, and it's on page 23 in the small purple book. Gagon chosegan hishimu jodo shigan fumanzok seifu joshogak gaomunyoko Fuidai seshu, fusai shobingu, seifu joshogak, gashi jobutsudo, myosho chojippo, Kukyo Mishomon Seifu Joshogak Ryokujin Shonen Joe Shubongyo Shigumu Jodo Isho Tenin Shi 人力縁大公不傷無才道少女三苦名交際主役難海一へ言滅死根も安閉塞小悪道通達全宗門高僧上満足いよろ実法日月主樹期天候音符言一種解放像公正独法上大集中説法ししく供養一切仏具足主徳本元年出上満徳意三害用如仏無下知通達未不詳願学エリク投資最小尊志願や国家大戦を感動国書天人東珍妙形ナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブがんにしくどく平等性才道法大心往生安楽国ナモ阿弥陀仏ナモ阿弥陀仏ナモ阿弥陀仏ナマンダナマンダOkay, thank you. We're doing things a little differently today. We did Sutra chanting before I read the names. So next, I would like to read the names of those who've passed away on this month of February. Hiroji Aochi, Shiro Aochi, Arata Akahoshi, Nobuta Akahoshi, Misai Cronin, Fusa Doi, Kiku Fuji, Arata Fujikawa, Masako Fujikawa, Kuni Fujimoto, Yoshiko Fujishima, Junko Jun Fujita, Fudekichi Fukuda, Itaro Harada, Seki Harada, Toshiyuki Jack Harada, Masatoshi Hashimoto, Yoshiko Hashimoto, Akino Hemmi, Sataro Hirai, Fumiko Hiramatsu, Koyoshi Idehara, Hatsu Igaki, Hisashi Ikeda, Charles Ishizu, Harvey Clay Johnson, Suejiro Kanada, George Kanagaki, Naochi Kaneshige, Keijiro Kataoka, Masuko Kataoka, Sakai Kataoka, Wes Kawabata, Tad Kawamura, Shuzo Kawaoka, Rikizo Kido, Sagao Kido, Toshiharu Kimura, Jinpachi Kitagaki, Mieko Kitagaki, Kimi Michelle Clevin, Yutaka Kobori, Jane Koizumi, Thomas Koizumi, Kotaro Komoda, Taka Kono, Tsutai Lachika, Kashichi Matsui, Nobuko Matsui, Saburo Matsui, Shigeru Matsumoto, Toku Matsutani, Lin Mifune, Chisaku Minamoto, Tokio Minamoto, Yukiko Mitsueda, Hatsu Miyamoto, Fujitaro Miyauchi, Shigeko Mizuki, Sam Mizusaki, Sakai Mori, Yukio Mori, Hisa Murakawa, James Murashima, Trang Mai, Shizue Nakai, Fred Nakamura, Kei Nakamura, Masayoshi Nakamura, Shozo Nakamura, Toki Nakamura, Tei Nakao, Harry Nakaya, Tase Nakayama, Judy Narasaki, Hisa Natsuhara, Jimpachi Nishimura, Shosuke Nobori, Yae Nobori, Hisae Noda, Amy Noma, Hatsuko Nomura, James Susumu Nomura, Nadine Ohara, Mitsuo Okashima, Fumiko Okawachi, Kazuichi Oseto, Edith Oto, Makoto Otsuka, James Jolander Phillips, Nihachiro Sakaki, Faith Sasaki, Toyohiko Sata, Mitsu Shigaya, Mio Shigemoto, Yoshiharu Shimada, Taizan Shimizu, Hatsumi Shohara, Keiko Soda, George Soga, Frank Takahashi, Hina Takahashi, Tsuruko Takahashi, Raymond Tamori, Yana Tanaka, Tani Family, Jitsuo Tani, Itsuzo Taniguchi, Mitsugi Taniguchi, Edward Tanita, Matsu Terada, Tora Toji, Sakitaro Toyofuku, Same Toyofuku, Shizu Tsuboi, Tomotsu Tsuchida, Teruki Tsuchida, Hikotaro Tsuda, Ei Tsujimoto, Fumiya Umemoto, Sachiko Umemoto, Mark Umetani, Kenji Urushibata, Ura Urushibata, Kazuhiko Ueno, Hana Wada, Joe Wakayama, Nobuo Watanabe, Harold Wang, Marie Wang, Kajiko Yamasaki, Kimi Yamashita, Kaheiji Yokomizo, Eiichi Yoshida, Kamehisa Yoshida, Kino Yoshida, Ruby Yoshida, Hikoichi Yoshioka, Kiichi Yoshioka, Kisaku Yoshioka, Nao Yoshioka, Don Jiro Yoshisato, Kimie Yoshiura, Craig Matthew Young, Chosaburo Yuto. Okay, thank you. Next, we'll have the Dharma message. So one thing I was thinking, if you were here for the last service, I mentioned a little about training to become a minister. And I'm one of the trainers now, whereas I used to be a trainee. But one thing I realized when I train people, we got to train them how to read Japanese names. It's not easy to read that list. And it's hard enough when you know Japanese pronunciation. But I don't know if you noticed, sometimes I do the English R sound and sometimes I do the Japanese R sound, kind of depending on the name. It's just what's comfortable for me. I can do both, right? But the Japanese R is different than the English R, right? So, so being able to read through that list is definitely challenging. But to me, it's just amazing, right? This list of names. And thinking about, you may be here for a certain family member, if it's the Shotsuki month for you, right? And you listen for your family member's name. And yet beyond that, because I'm not related to any of these people. So for me, it's like they're all part of my BCO family, right? This big family beyond just by blood or by marriage, but we're also all family through BCO. And I also like to think of us as Dharma family. So thinking about this, for some reason, I was reminded, well, you know, a family tree, right? How you can make a family tree. And I don't know if your family has one. I don't have one. I guess a great uncle did a kind of genealogy at one point, and I have found that it's like typewritten on the old fashioned typewriter paper, right? So it's like big stack of paper, right? And so he went through, my father's from New England. Originally, my dad was born in Maine, but we're definitely this kind of, on my father's side, this kind of New England background. Supposedly, family members there at the Revolutionary War, right? Lexington and all that. Supposedly on the Mayflower, you know, I don't know if I believe it, but I haven't gone through to try and, you know, figure it out or not, but it's kind of cool. I guess I could put it on one of the genealogy websites, right? And you look at those, I've seen it, and it's pretty cool to be able to look. And actually, my parents are on one of them, but I haven't. I don't know. It's kind of personal information in a way, you know, and as much as it might help others at the same time, I don't know how they're using my personal information, my family history, right? But it was interesting to see my parents. My cousin showed me, she uses a couple of them. Well, my dad's on there, my mom, right? Their names are on this thing. So you don't have to do a genealogy website like that, but maybe your family has one, right? And there's different symbols that they use, technically, I guess, right? And so if I were to think of mine, I'm an only child, so there's me, and then my parents, and then if they had, my dad didn't have siblings, but my mom, actually, my grandmother had stillborn twins. So actually, my dad, in a way, wasn't an only child, and he grew up as an only child, but you know, his mom had been pregnant before, right? So they would be on there in a way, on a family tree, and then you know. So my grandparents, my dad's parents would be on there. And if they had siblings, I have no idea, you know, and then back. So we can think of that tree, and it really does kind of look like a tree. Upside down in a way, I guess the roots go further back in a way, like you could have yourself at the top, right? And then this background, so maybe we could think of it as roots, kind of, right? This where your family comes from. And it's kind of neat, Sometimes it looks kind of linear, especially when we think of, you know, me as the center, right? Is how I would think of it, my family tree. So I'm here, and then look at all these other people, right? But I'm thinking from my perspective, but it only connects you directly to the generation below your parents and maybe siblings, right? But then, of course, you're related to your grandparents, right? So there's a connection there. If they had siblings, you're related to them, right? If through marriage, you start to branch out and get all these different ones, right? So a family tree is kind of cool. When I was a student 30 years ago, or whenever it was, at one point, I made a chart of all the people involved in my becoming Buddhist, right? Because I wasn't born Buddhist. I encountered it in college. Really, the time it touched me was my junior year of college. So I remember I had a piece of paper. I hope I still have it somewhere. I had this piece of paper and I had all these lines, you know? And so I might have talked about it last week, my best friend from high school, right? And how it was through him and his family that I ended up at the Palo Alto Buddhist Temple. Right? And so there's that connection, my connection to Reverend Abiko, right? My connection to Reverend Taitetsu Uno, my connection to Reverend Willie Masuda. Those early connections were through my friend and his family. And so you could have all these lines would then connect you. What I realized is I wouldn't be Buddhist without Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs is part of why I'm Buddhist. And it's not because I'm using a Mac, which you can see there. I got my iPhone somewhere down there. We're using it for the service, right? I definitely have a lot of Mac products, Apple products. That's not why. It's because my best friend's dad worked for Apple. right? My best friend's dad worked for Apple. It was the early mid 80s. Apple was trying to break into Japanese market. I was going to high school in Japan, junior high and high school in Japan, at the American school in Japan. And so here comes this kid who seems to like music. I like music. He plays guitar. I play bass. So we became friends. We played in bands in high school. You know, a lot of my musical development is because of him, because we were into some of the same music. We both liked Rush. He was really into U2. I'm not a big U2 fan, especially after they forced us all to have that one album on our iPhones or iTunes. But even besides that, I was never like a huge U2 fan. He was really into the Police. Yeah, like the Police, you know, but they were never like my band. But Rush, like we both listened to this Canadian band called Rush, right? And so this band was, we'd get together and we'd learn the parts. He'd learn the guitar parts, I'd learn the bass parts, and I would play along with my Walkman and like take my Walkman to school and be trying to learn these songs, listening over and over and playing it over and over. I probably wore out the tape, you know, trying to get that part again. And so I learned this stuff when I was 15. How long is that ago? That's like 35 years ago, right? And I've started playing them again because it was such a formative experience. So I might not be Buddhist if it weren't for Rush too. I'll include them in there. Rush and Steve Jobs are part of me being Buddhist. Turns out, right, his dad was in Japan because of Apple, right? Working for Apple. There were a lot of IBM people too, I remember. So it was like IBM, Apple, even Tokyo Disneyland when I first got there, right? So a lot of the other kids were there because their parents were working for companies that were in Japan. So it's kind of amazing to me to think, you know, wow, okay, Steve Jobs, you know, it's like, I don't know the guy. I never met him. I've used a lot of his products, you know, and he's an interesting guy. Had some connection to Buddhism, right? Maybe not Shin Buddhism, but had some Buddhist connection. But if it weren't for Steve Jobs, my friend wouldn't have gone to Japan. I would never have met him, right? But he did, right? He did. His dad did work for Apple. It's Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak did start this company in their garage or whatever in the 70s, right? And because of that, partly because of that, I was able to hear the Dharma, right? It might have been years separated, and yet I was able to hear the Dharma because of these connections. Speaking of Rush, they have a song called Roll the Bones. Okay, it's not one of their best songs. I saw them on that tour though, and Roll the Bones means rolling dice, right? And so the lyrics go, why are we here? Because we're here, roll the bones. Roll the bones. Why does it happen? Because it happens, roll the bones. Roll the bones, right? So this song seems to be saying, is there some reason I'm here? No, I'm here because I'm here. It's a roll of the dice. Totally random, right? Just random coincidence that I happen to be here. So actually Rush didn't influence me so much philosophically, I think, you know, like I didn't necessarily buy into that message, but it's an interesting message, huh? Why are we here? Is it just random? We just happen to be here? Or is there something deeper? Is there something more significant? And so when we listen to those names, right? When you heard those names, you're hearing this incredible web of relationships, right? You're hearing this incredible list, only 1/12, if that, of people connected to this temple, right? Because it's only 1 month's worth. Every month I read a different list. There's no duplicates, right? Because nobody dies twice in 2 different months, right? So every single person's unique on here. And so reading that list, right, is like reading a part, it's like a chapter in the history of this temple. And it's not a chapter like chronologically, because people on here might have passed away over 50 years ago, or they might have passed away last year, right? So it's this incredible list. It's alphabetical in this case, but the Japanese list is chronological. That's another thing you have to be able to do, is decipher some of the Japanese materials that you have at a temple, right? And so our lists are funny because the Japanese one is chronological and the English one is alphabetical. So when I prepare this list, I have to go on the Japanese one and then adjust all the years, right? So if last year was the 7th year for someone, I have to move it ahead a year, right? So then the people who died in the next year will be their 7th year or their 3rd year or their 50th year or whatever, right? So and then you have to take that Japanese list and then look for those names on the English list. It's not easy. Japanese names are not easy with all the kanji. I'm so lucky because we have cards, which you could kind of go through and try and do, but I have a website I use that does Japanese names. Because Japanese names the readings can be totally different than like a regular reading for a kanji, right? So anyway, this amazing list, right? Imagine that. I'm here because of all those people, right? And Palo Alto. There's a Palo Alto, I'm sure, has their own list too, right? So if I want to say who is part of me becoming Buddhist, part of the answer is every month of the whole year, all those people, right, made it possible for me to have done my internship 20 years ago, right? For me to have encountered Reverend Yamaoka, Reverend Umezu, Reverend Taniguchi, right? For me to have encountered descendants of Reverend Masuyama and others, right? That all those people are part of me being here. There's a certain amount of chance too, back to the Rush song, right? Maybe in a way it is a roll of the dice, right? I did happen to meet my friend and become friends with him, right? That there was a lot of possibilities that would not have happened, right? So in a way, I also accept a kind of coincidence kind of thought, and just this chance. But maybe that's also what Buddhism asks us to do. Appreciate that. Appreciate that connection. Appreciate that encounter. That's part of the IBS symposium in a couple of weeks. Nembutsu, appreciate every encounter. Right? That I was able to encounter people and thinking back now, realize, whoa, that changed my life. It wasn't just some random thing, yeah, whatever. Right? No, it's amazing, right? Incredible to have encountered all these people. And for me, as a minister, it's this web of all the different ministers and that kind of thing, and realizing it's not just Buddhist Church of Oakland. For me, Palo Alto Buddhist Temple, but on a big level, BCA, right? Buddhist Churches of America. That's part of the significance of BCA, is that it doesn't happen in a vacuum, right? All of these temples are part of another web, another network, right? This network of temples. So we can see the network of members. I talked about this last week, right? These networks. So the network of all the members of BCO, but then the network of all the different temples. And then realize Nishihon Ganji in Japan, right? That there's another network, right? We're not this independent organization that has no ties to anyone. We have these deep connections to this temple in Japan, which connect us with the teachings of Shinran Shoni. This incredible teaching that allows me to be myself, right? Allows me to be who I am, faults and all, right? Also allows me to encounter the Dharma, to have something, a new direction to go in rather than just wandering aimlessly, right? To realize, oh, yeah, I wander aimlessly all the time, but Namo Amida Butsu, get oriented back, get back on track, right? And then also this connection with so many people, living and those who've passed away. So I mentioned in the earlier service awareness and kindness. And then the third one in my AKA acronym is appreciation, right? To appreciate this, to understand it, right? Because appreciation has an aspect of understanding. Right? To understand this, to recognize this. Whoa, you're right. I just came for the one name on this list because it's February, but all those names are important, connected to all of those people, whether I knew them or not. But then another aspect of appreciation is gratitude, right? And this gratitude of realizing, whoa, I would not have encountered the Dharma without these people, without Rush, without Steve Jobs, without my friend, right? It's because of all those people that I was able to encounter the Dharma. Thank you. Namo Amida Butsu, Naman Butsu, right? So that gratitude and appreciation. I think there's more. The whole on idea, what we translate as gratitude, I can be like, wow, thanks. All right, see you later, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to do anything different, but there's also an idea of whole on, responding to this benevolence, right? And one response is thank you, right? Another response is Namo Amida Butsu. Maybe another response is how I live my life, right? And that I realize, you know what? Maybe I want to do something different, right? And that this responding to the gratitude, and whether it's I want to help out at church more, or just, I want to try not to get mad so much, or whatever. There's no limits, and it's different for each one of us, right? But that's another layer of gratitude, right? There's that understanding. There's that thank you, right? Which we normally think of maybe as gratitude. But I think we can think of it in even a more positive, proactive way with this responding to the benevolence, responding to the embrace of wisdom and compassion of Amida Buddha, right? And that's where we can take it out of temple, right? I think sometimes the whole on service teams, right? Host team, it's built into that. That's what host means. Whole on service team, whole on responding to the benevolence. And I think sometimes people think, yeah, I signed up for Clean the Garden for this month. All right, I've done my whole on for the year. I checked it off and I've fulfilled my obligations. That's not what it means, right? That's one layer that you can express it. But I hope it spills out beyond temple, right? And that how we respond to that benevolence, how we respond to hearing that call from the Buddha, right? Can change you. It's changed me, right? It doesn't mean I'm perfect. I'm far, 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 far from perfect, right? I still get angry. I still have desires. I'm still full of ignorance, right? And yet transformed, right? And yet my life is so different than if I hadn't encountered the Dharma. So I bet if you think about this stuff, and don't just, oh yeah, I fulfilled my obligation, right? You can do that. I can't judge you, but another way to think of Shotsuki is when you go back to regular life after the next 5 minutes or whatever, because I'm almost done, is, in the middle of your day, if you think of the person whose name was read, oh, wow, you know what? I just remembered how much they did for me, right? How, like the fact that I'm able to be here even is partly due to them. And that is part of the call of Amida Buddha, right? So that it can change your life. I hope, I think, I know it can change your life, right? Whether it will, roll the bones maybe, who knows, right? And yet, right, this call is something to keep an eye out for, to keep your ears open, to keep your heart open to. So I want to thank you very much for joining us for our February Shotsuki Hoyo and monthly adult Dharma service. Let's conclude the Dharma talk with Gassho, reciting the name of the Buddha with appreciation and gratitude. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda. Nama. Okay, let's sing Ondokusan II. And Ondokusan should be in the small purple book if you got it. And it looks like it's on page 76. And this is a poem by Shinran Shonin expressing some of this realization of what he received from the Buddha and from the masters. Nyonai dai Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namam. Okay, thank you. There are some announcements. Let me just, you might have heard them before if you were in the earlier service, but real quick, let's see. 200 plus club tickets are ready. If you know what that is, find a board member here today and you can buy some. OBWA will be having their Lady Takeko Kujo Memorial Service next Sunday at 11 a.m. It's going to be hybrid, actually, so if you're here for Dharma Family Service, you can stick around for that, or you can watch it online if you're part of OBWA. BCA Council, National Council meeting is coming up, and so there's a bunch of stuff for that. Please go to our website to check that out. And there's going to be a lot of music on that Sunday, February 26th. So we're not going to have our own service, but you'll be able to come here and watch it on the screen, and we can hang out and watch it together. I'll be here, but it's kind of a musical service, so it should be pretty neat. I think there's going to be a lot of nice music. And then the BCA Jams virtual talent show is going to be after that, and so that's on the same day. Juseige Crab Feed on the same day too, that afternoon, Sunday, February 26th, El Cerrito Community Center. And Benefits of a Life of Gratitude at JS, or actually it's the guest speaker is Reverend Dr. Kenji Akahoshi. That's a CBE event. And our 850th 800th service at Palo Alto Temple on March 12th. So check out the Bushin for that. And I think that should do it. All of that information should be on our website, BuddhistChurchofOakland.org, or you can call or email the office or me if you heard something. It happens sometimes. People say, I heard something in the announcements. And so you can always ask. And that will conclude our February monthly memorial Shotsuki and adult Dharma service. And we can conclude once more with Gassho. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda. Okay, thank you. Bye, everybody online.